I walked into the garage that Saturday morning, expecting to see my 1967 Shelby Mustang GT500 where I'd left it the night before. Instead, I found an empty space, oil stains on the concrete floor, and my wife Veronica standing in the doorway with her arms crossed and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Where's my car?" I asked, my voice steady despite the sudden emptiness in my chest. "I sold it," she said, like she was announcing she'd picked up groceries. "We got $45,000 for it. The buyer picked it up this morning while you were still asleep." I stared at the empty space where my car had been, the car my father had restored with me over 3 summers before he died. The car that held every good memory I had of him, his laugh when the engine finally turned over, his pride when we took it to car shows, his voice teaching me about carburetors and timing belts, and the difference between wanting something and earning something. "You sold my car," I repeated, still not quite believing it. It was just sitting here, collecting dust. "We needed the money for the kitchen renovation. I've been asking you about updating the kitchen for 2 years, and you keep putting it off. So I took care of it myself." My hands clenched at my sides, but I kept my face neutral. Kept my breathing even. Kept the rage that was building in my chest from showing in my expression. "That car wasn't yours to sell, Veronica. We're married, aren't we? What's yours is mine." "That's how marriage works, Marcus." She said my name like it was an accusation. "Besides, you spend more time with that stupid car than you do with me. Maybe now you'll actually pay attention to your wife." There were so many things I wanted to say, that the car had been titled in my name only, that she'd forged my signature on the title transfer, she must have, because I'd never signed anything. That this wasn't about money or kitchens or attention. This was about control, about her proving she could take something I loved and I couldn't stop her. But I didn't say any of those things. Instead, I looked at her calmly and said, "You're right. What's yours is mine. I'll remember that." Something flickered in her expression. Uncertainty, maybe, or the first hint that she'd miscalculated, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared, replaced by that satisfied smile. "Good. I'm meeting the contractor at noon to discuss countertop options. You should come. After all, this is for both of us." She walked back into the house, leaving me standing in the empty garage. I stood there for a long moment, breathing in the faint smell of motor oil and old leather that still lingered in the air. Then I pulled out my phone and made a call. "Marcus?" My lawyer, Philip Carter, answered on the second ring. "It's Saturday morning. This better be important. She sold my car, the Mustang. Without your permission? Without even telling me. Forged my signature on the title, I'm guessing. Said we needed the money for a kitchen renovation." Philip was quiet for a moment. "How do you want to handle this?" "Exactly the way we discussed." "It's time. You're sure?" "Once we start this, there's no going back." "I'm sure." She just gave me all the justification I needed. After I hung up, I walked back into the house. Veronica was in the kitchen she hated so much, making coffee and humming to herself. She looked happy, satisfied, like she'd won some game I hadn't known we were playing. But here's what Veronica didn't know. I'd been playing a different game for the past 6 months, ever since I'd discovered she'd been having an affair with her personal trainer, Blake Morrison. Ever since I'd started documenting everything, the affair, the secret credit cards she'd opened in both our names, the money she'd been siphoning from our joint account, her plans to file for divorce and take me for everything I had. I'd known about all of it, and I'd been preparing. The car sale was just her latest mistake, another piece of evidence, another demonstration of her complete disregard for anything that mattered to me. And now, I was going to show her what happened when you underestimated Marcus Thorne. "Coffee?" Veronica asked, pouring herself a cup. "No thanks. I have some errands to run. Don't forget about the contractor meeting at noon." "I won't forget." I drove to the bank first. The one where I'd quietly opened a separate account 3 months ago and started moving money, my money, from before the marriage, from my own business, carefully documented and legally mine. Veronica didn't know about this account. She thought all our money was in the joint account she'd been draining. The bank manager, A woman named Patricia, who I'd been working with, greeted me with a knowing look. "Mr. Thorne, I have the documents ready for you." "Thank you, Patricia." She handed me a folder containing statements showing exactly how much money I'd moved, when I'd moved it, and proof that it had all come from sources that predated my marriage or were solely in my name. Everything legal, everything documented, everything protected. "Your wife attempted to access this account yesterday," Patricia said quietly. "She had what she claimed was your power of attorney. But the signature didn't match the one we have on file. She tried to access my account?" "Yes." We denied her, of course. "And I've made a note in our fraud prevention system. This is the third time she's attempted to access funds she's not authorized for. I filed that information away. More evidence. More demonstration of exactly who Veronica was and what she was willing to do. From the bank, I drove to a jewelry appraiser. Not just any appraiser, the best one in the city, the one who'd appraised Veronica's jewelry collection when she'd had it insured 2 years ago. The collection she was so proud of. The collection she posted on social media and showed off at parties. The collection that, legally, was marital property, just like she'd claimed my car was. Mr. Thorne, the appraiser, an elderly man named Bernard, greeted me. "Your wife's collection is quite extensive. You're looking to have it reappraised? Actually, I'm looking to sell it." Bernard's eyebrows rose. "All of it? Every piece? I need a full appraisal, documentation of provenance for each item, and a list of potential buyers who'd be interested in purchasing the collection as a whole or in pieces. That's a significant undertaking. The collection is worth approximately $300,000 at current market value." "I know. How long will it take? To properly appraise and document everything? About a week? To find buyers? That depends on how quickly you want to move the pieces. I want it done as fast as possible. Money is no object if it speeds up the process. Then I can have the appraisal done in 3 days, and I already have several collectors who've expressed interest in your wife's pieces. She's posted about them extensively online. It's actually made them quite well known in certain circles. Perfect. Veronica's need to show off was about to become her downfall. Do it. I'll bring the collection by tomorrow. Mr. Thorne, may I ask, does your wife know you're doing this?" "She will. Eventually." Back home, Veronica was getting ready for the contractor meeting. She'd changed into an outfit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Designer jeans, a silk blouse, expensive shoes, all purchased with money from our joint account. Money I'd earned from my software company while she played at being an influencer online. "You're back," she said, not looking up from her phone. "Good. We need to leave in 15 minutes. Actually, I'm not going to make it to that meeting." She looked up sharply. "What?" "Marcus, this is important." "I'm sure it is, but I have something more important to take care of." "More important than our home? Than our life together?" "Veronica, let me ask you something. When you sold my car this morning, did you think about how I'd feel? Did you consider that it might matter to me? Or were you just thinking about what you wanted?" She set down her phone, her expression hardening. "Don't be dramatic. It's just a car. It was my father's car, the last thing we built together before he died. Your father's been dead for 10 years. You need to let go and move on." There it was. The casual cruelty she tried to dress up as practicality. The complete disregard for anything that mattered to me. "You're right," I said quietly. "I do need to let go and move on. Starting now." I walked upstairs to our bedroom, to the safe where Veronica kept her jewelry collection. The safe I had the combination to because, as she'd reminded me that morning, we were married and what was hers was mine. I opened the safe and began removing jewelry, the diamond necklace her mother had given her, the ruby earrings she'd bought herself with our money, the vintage Cartier bracelet she'd invested in, the pearl set she wore to every formal event. Piece after piece, I laid them carefully in the padded case I'd brought. "What are you doing?" I turned to find Veronica standing in the doorway, her face pale. "What's mine is yours, right? That's what you said this morning. Well, this jewelry was purchased with marital funds. That makes it marital property, just like you claimed my car was marital property. You can't, that's my jewelry. Those pieces are mine. Were they titled solely in your name? Did you keep receipts showing you purchased them with your own money from before our marriage? Because I have the title to my car, showing it was mine before we got married. Do you have similar documentation for any of these pieces? Her mouth opened and closed. You're being ridiculous. This isn't the same thing. You're right. It's not the same. My car was worth $45,000. Your jewelry collection is worth approximately $300,000, so actually, I'm being quite generous. Marcus, stop this. Put my jewelry back. No. You made the rules this morning, Veronica. What's yours is mine. I'm just playing by them. I closed the case and walked past her. She grabbed my arm, her nails digging in. If you walk out that door with my jewelry, I will call the police. And tell them what? That your husband took marital property? The same way you took marital property this morning when you sold my car? Please, make that call. I'd love to have the police involved. It'll make the divorce proceedings much more interesting. She dropped her hand. Divorce? You didn't think I knew, did you? About Blake. About the affair you've been having for 8 months. About the Love Nest apartment you've been paying for with money from our joint account. About your plans to file for divorce and try to take me for everything I have. The color drained from her face completely. How? I've known for 6 months, Veronica. 6 months of watching you sneak around. 6 months of documenting everything. 6 months of preparing for exactly this moment. So thank you for selling my car. You've given me the perfect justification for what comes next. I walked downstairs with her jewelry case. She followed, her voice rising with each step. You can't do this! That jewelry is mine! Take it up with your lawyer! Oh, wait, you haven't hired one yet, have you? You were going to spring the divorce on me, catch me by surprise, and take everything before I knew what was happening. Except I've been 3 steps ahead of you this entire time. I put the jewelry case in my car. Not the car I wanted to be putting it in, but the sedan I'd driven that morning. Then I turned back to Veronica, who was standing in the driveway, looking like her world had just collapsed. By the way, I said, the contractor meeting? You're going to need to cancel it. Because in about 3 hours, you're going to be served with divorce papers. And I don't think you're going to feel much like picking out countertops. Marcus, also, you might want to call Blake. Let him know that his wife is being served today, too. I'm sure Stephanie will be very interested to learn about the affair her husband's been having. Especially since you've been paying for the apartment with money I earned. I got in my car and drove away, leaving Veronica standing in the driveway with her mouth open and her perfect world crumbling around her. And for the first time in 6 months, for the first time since I'd discovered her betrayal, I smiled. I drove to Philip's office with Veronica's jewelry case on the passenger seat beside me. The weight of it felt satisfying. Not because of what it was worth in dollars, though $300,000 was nothing to sneeze at, but because of what it represented. Consequences. Justice. The simple acknowledgement that actions have repercussions. Philip's office was in a modern glass building downtown, all sharp angles and expensive views. His secretary, an efficient woman named Beatrice, greeted me with a sympathetic smile. Mr. Thorne, he's expecting you, and may I say, I've been married 30 years. If my husband had done what your wife did with that car, there wouldn't be enough left of him for a divorce lawyer to represent. Thank you, Beatrice. That's oddly comforting. Philip was standing at his window when I entered, looking out over the city. He was a trim man in his 50s, with silver hair and the kind of calm confidence that came from winning more cases than he'd lost. Marcus, I've already filed the divorce petition. She'll be served in, he checked his watch, approximately 2 hours. Perfect. And you brought the jewelry? I set the case on his desk. He opened it, examining the contents with the eye of someone who'd valued marital assets in dozens of divorces. This is quite a collection. You're certain all of these were purchased with marital funds? I have the credit card statements, the receipts from the jewelers, everything. Every piece was purchased during our marriage with money from our joint account or credit cards in both our names. Not a single piece predates the marriage or was purchased with her own funds. Then legally it's marital property. You have every right to liquidate marital assets pending the divorce settlement. That's what I thought. Philip closed the case. Bernard's firm will handle the appraisal and sale. But Marcus, I need to ask, are you prepared for how Veronica's going to react? This isn't just about the jewelry. You're taking her status symbols. The things she shows off online. You're hitting her where it hurts most. Just like she did when she sold my father's car. Fair enough. But be prepared for her to come at you hard. She's going to claim abuse, manipulation, theft, anything she can think of to paint you as the villain. Let her try. I have 6 months of documentation showing her affair, her financial infidelity, her plans to blindside me with a divorce. I have bank records showing she's been draining our joint account. I have text messages between her and Blake discussing how much money they think they can get from me. Let her tell whatever story she wants. The evidence tells the truth. You've done your homework. I learned from the best. I'd retained Philip 6 months ago, right after discovering Veronica's affair. He'd guided me through every step of protecting myself, documenting the affair, securing my assets, gathering evidence, preparing for this exact moment. What about Blake's wife? You said you were having her served too? This afternoon. She deserves to know what her husband's been doing. And honestly, she's been a better wife to him than he deserves. They have 3 kids. She should have the full picture before Blake tries to spin some story. Philip nodded approvingly. You're thinking strategically. That's good. Emotion can derail the best planned divorce. Oh, I'm emotional. I'm furious. But I'm not letting fury make me stupid. That's the difference between people who win divorces and people who lose them. I left Philip's office and drove to Bernard's appraisal firm. The old man was waiting for me, his workbench already cleared and prepared. Ah, Mr. Thorne, let me see what we have. He went through each piece methodically, examining them under magnification, checking stones and settings, making notes in a leather-bound book. Watching him work was soothing. Everything documented. Everything precise. No room for argument or dispute. These are quite remarkable, Bernard said after an hour. Your wife has excellent taste. This Cartier bracelet alone is worth $50,000. And these pearls, Mikimoto perfect luster, easily $75,000. How fast can you move them? I have 3 collectors who would be interested in the full collection. One of them has been following your wife's social media and has expressed interest before. I can have offers by Monday. Do it. Whatever gets them sold fastest. Mr. Thorne, if I may, this is clearly a difficult situation, but you're handling it with remarkable composure. Composure is the only weapon I have that Veronica can't take from me. Back in my car, I checked my phone. 7 missed calls from Veronica, 12 text messages ranging from angry to pleading to threatening. I didn't respond to any of them. Philip had been clear, no contact except through lawyers. Anything I said could be used against me. Instead, I drove to my office. I owned a software development company, nothing huge but profitable enough to give us a comfortable life. Or it would have been comfortable if Veronica hadn't been spending money like we had unlimited resources. My business partner, Harrison, looked up when I walked in. You look like hell. Veronica sold my car this morning. The Mustang. She what? Forged my signature on the title, sold it for $45,000, said we needed the money for a kitchen renovation. Harrison sat back, stunned. That car was... Yeah. What are you going to do? Already did it. I'm filing for divorce. She'll be served in about an hour. Holy shit, Marcus, I'm sorry. Don't be. I've been planning this for 6 months. She just gave me the excuse I needed. Harrison knew about the affair. I'd told him 3 months ago when I needed someone to talk to. He'd been supportive and discreet, exactly what I'd needed. Does she know you know? Harrison asked. She does now. I told her right before I took her jewelry collection and walked out. You took her jewelry? Every piece, having it appraised and sold. If marital property is fair game for her to liquidate without asking me, then it's fair game for me, too. Harrison laughed, a surprised bark of sound. That's actually brilliant. Fight fire with fire. Fight fire with documentation and legal precedent. There's a difference. I spent the next few hours at the office trying to focus on work, but mostly just watching the clock. At 3:47 p.m., my phone rang. Philip, she's been served, and Marcus, it didn't go well. Define, didn't go well. She threw things at the process server. Called you every name in the book, threatened to sue me personally. Then she called Blake, and apparently he'd just been served too. His wife showed up at the Love Nest apartment while Veronica was there. It's safe to say both situations have exploded. Good. There's something else. Veronica already has a lawyer. Someone named Preston Wild. He's aggressive, expensive, and likes media attention. He's probably going to try to paint you as controlling and abusive. Based on what evidence? Based on you stealing her jewelry, forcing her into a divorce, isolating her financially. He doesn't need real evidence if he can create a compelling story. Then we'll counter it with actual evidence. The affair, the financial infidelity, the forged signature on my car title. Let him try to spin that into me being the villain. After work, I drove to a hotel. I wasn't going home. That house belonged to both of us, and until the divorce was settled, I wasn't interested in sharing space with Veronica. I'd already moved most of my important belongings to a storage unit over the past month. The hotel suite I'd reserved was comfortable, anonymous, exactly what I needed. My phone rang as I was unpacking. My mother. Marcus, what on earth is going on? Veronica's mother just called me in hysterics, saying you filed for divorce and stolen Veronica's jewelry. It's true. Both things. Marcus Andrew Thorne. Mom, before you say anything else, let me tell you what Veronica did this morning. I told her about the car. About waking up to find it gone, sold without my knowledge or permission. About Veronica's casual cruelty when I asked where it was. My mother was silent for a long moment. Then, she sold your father's car. Yes, the car you and Henry restored together. The car he drove you to college in. The car that was at his funeral. Yes. That woman is... My mother, normally so careful with her words, couldn't finish the sentence. Marcus, I am so sorry. You should have told me what she was doing. What she'd been doing. I didn't want to worry you. I needed to handle it myself. The jewelry? That's how you're fighting back? That's how I'm making sure she understands actions have consequences. She said what's mine is hers. I'm reminding her that works both ways. Good. I know divorce isn't what anyone wants, but Marcus, that woman doesn't deserve you. She never did. We talked for another hour. My mother told me about how she'd never quite trusted Veronica. How she'd always seemed more interested in what Marcus could give her than who Marcus was. How she'd bit her tongue for 5 years because she wanted me to be happy. I should have said something, my mother said. Should have warned you. I wouldn't have listened. I was in love. Or I thought I was. And now I'm just done. Done being taken for granted. Done being treated like a bank account with legs. Done pretending this marriage was ever what I thought it was. After we hung up, I sat in my hotel room and let myself feel everything I'd been suppressing all day. The rage at Veronica for selling my father's car. The hurt at her complete disregard for my feelings. The betrayal of discovering she'd been planning to blindside me with a divorce. But underneath all of that was something else. Relief. Finally, the pretending was over. Finally, I could stop watching her lie and cheat and steal, waiting for the right moment to act. Finally, I could start building a life that didn't include her. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You're going to regret this. I'll destroy you in court. I screenshot the text and forwarded it to Philip with a note. Threatening message from Veronica. Add it to the file. His response came immediately. Perfect. Keep them coming. That was the thing about Veronica. She couldn't help herself. She thought she was threatening me, establishing dominance, showing she wouldn't go down without a fight. What she was actually doing was creating evidence. Every angry text, every threatening call, every irrational action, all of it was building my case. The next morning was Sunday. I went for a run, trying to clear my head. The hotel had a gym, and I spent 2 hours working out, pushing my body until it was too tired to think. Then I showered, ordered room service, and opened my laptop. I had work to do. Not for my company. That was running smoothly. But I needed to document everything that had happened yesterday. Every conversation, every action, every detail. Philip had taught me that divorce cases were won on documentation, not emotion. I was typing when my phone rang. "Harrison, turn on Channel 7, right now." "What? Why?" "Just do it." I found the remote and turned on the TV. Channel 7 was running a local news segment, and there on my screen was Veronica. She was standing outside our house, looking devastated and small. The reporter was asking her questions, and Veronica was answering with tears running down her face. "My husband has become a different person," she was saying. "He's controlling, manipulative. He took all my jewelry, pieces that have been in my family for generations, and sold them without my permission. I'm terrified of what he might do next." The reporter, a young woman who looked appropriately sympathetic, asked, "Have you filed a police report?" "I'm scared to. My husband has powerful lawyers. They've threatened me, told me that if I go to the police, they'll make sure I lose everything. I just want my jewelry back. I just want my life back." I watched in disbelief as Veronica spun a complete fiction. Not a single piece of jewelry had been in her family. Not a single piece had been sold yet. And I'd never threatened her. I'd barely spoken to her. But she was good. She looked fragile and afraid. She looked like a victim. The segment ended with the reporter saying, "We reached out to Marcus Thorne for comment, but he did not respond. This is clearly a developing story, and we'll continue to follow it as more information becomes available." "She's going for public sympathy," Harrison said, "trying to paint you as the bad guy before you can tell your side. It won't work. Once the affair comes out, once the financial evidence is public, no one's going to believe her victim act." "You sure about that?" "She's pretty convincing. She's lying, and lies always fall apart eventually." But I wasn't as confident as I sounded. Veronica had just fired the first shot in what was clearly going to be a very public battle, and she'd done it well. I called Philip. "I saw it," he said before I could speak. "Preston Wild is behind this. He's going for trial by media, trying to turn public opinion against you before we even get to court. So what do? We release a statement. Carefully worded, legally sound, making it clear that you're the one with documentation and evidence. We don't engage with her accusations directly. That just legitimizes them. We focus on the facts. Do it. And Philip? Make sure that statement mentions the car, what she did. Let the public decide who the real victim is, already drafting it." The statement went out that afternoon. It was brief and professional. Marcus Thorne is saddened by the dissolution of his marriage. However, he must correct several inaccuracies in recent media reports. No jewelry has been sold. All items in question are marital property being properly valued as part of standard divorce proceedings. Mr. Thorne's decision to file for divorce came after his wife sold his deceased father's restored automobile without permission and forged his signature on legal documents. Mr. Thorne has extensive documentation of financial impropriety during the marriage and looks forward to presenting the full facts in court. He requests privacy during this difficult time. It was perfect, factual, sympathetic, and most importantly, it shifted the narrative. I wasn't the villain stealing jewelry. I was the grieving son whose wife had sold his father's car. By Sunday evening, the story had shifted. Social media was buzzing with people debating who was wrong. Some supported Veronica. He's clearly abusive and controlling. But more and more were asking questions. Wait, she sold his dead father's car? That's awful. If she forged his signature, isn't that fraud? Why would she go on TV before the divorce is even filed? Harrison called again. "You're trending on Twitter, and most of the comments are actually on your side. I don't care about Twitter. I care about what happens in court. Still, it's good that she's not controlling the narrative anymore. She never was. She just thought she was." Monday morning, Bernard called. "Mr. Thorne, I have excellent news. One of my collectors wants the entire jewelry collection. He's offering $320,000 for everything, sight unseen, based on my appraisal and the photographs I've provided. He can have funds transferred today. Take it. Are you certain? We might get more if we sell pieces individually. I don't care about getting more. I care about this being done. Accept the offer. As you wish. I'll have the paperwork drawn up immediately. By Monday afternoon, Veronica's jewelry collection was sold. $320,000 sat in an escrow account, waiting for the divorce court to decide how to divide it. I called Philip to let him know. That was fast, he said. I wanted it done before she could get a court order to stop it. Now it's sold. The money's in escrow. Everything's documented. Let her lawyer try to claim I stole it. He will try. Preston's already filed an emergency motion to freeze all marital assets. The judge will hear it Wednesday. Good. I look forward to presenting our evidence. Marcus, this is going to get uglier before it gets better. Are you ready for that? Philip, she sold my father's car without asking. She betrayed me, lied to me, planned to take me for everything I had. And then she went on TV and called me abusive. I'm not just ready. I'm eager. That's what I wanted to hear. Wednesday morning, I wore my best suit to court. Not because I wanted to impress the judge, though that didn't hurt, but because I wanted Veronica to see exactly what she'd lost. The successful businessman she'd taken for granted. The man who'd been 10 steps ahead of her this entire time. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected, with wood paneling and uncomfortable benches. Veronica sat at one table with Preston Wilde, her lawyer, a man in his 40s with expensive hair and a suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. She'd dressed carefully too, conservative clothes, minimal makeup, playing the role of wronged wife. She wouldn't look at me. I sat at the other table with Philip. He'd brought 3 file boxes full of documentation, evidence of the affair, bank statements showing Veronica's spending, copies of the forged title transfer on my car, credit card statements for the apartment she'd been renting for Blake. Everything organized, labeled, ready to present. Remember, Philip whispered, stay calm. Don't react. Let the evidence speak. The judge entered, a woman in her 60s named Judge Patricia Helms, with the kind of expression that suggested she'd seen every trick in the book and wasn't impressed by any of them. We're here for an emergency motion to freeze marital assets, Judge Helms said, looking over her reading glasses at both tables. Mr. Wilde, you filed this motion. Explain. Preston Wilde stood, all confidence and righteous indignation. Your Honor, my client has been the victim of financial abuse. Her husband, without warning or discussion, removed approximately $300,000 worth of jewelry from their home and sold it without her knowledge or consent. This jewelry included family heirlooms with significant sentimental value. Family heirlooms? Philip murmured beside me. She didn't even know her grandparents. Judge Helms looked at me. Mr. Thorne, is it true you sold your wife's jewelry? I stood. Your Honor, I sold marital property. Every piece of jewelry in question was purchased during our 5-year marriage with funds from our joint accounts. I have receipts, credit card statements, and jeweler documentation proving this. Not a single piece predates the marriage or was purchased with my wife's separate funds. So you admit you sold the jewelry? I do. After my wife sold my 1967 Shelby Mustang GT500 without my knowledge or consent, forging my signature on the title transfer. The car was purchased and restored before our marriage and was titled solely in my name. Unlike the jewelry, it was my separate property. That got Judge Helms's attention. She sold your car without your permission? Yes, Your Honor. While I was asleep Saturday morning. She informed me after the fact that she'd sold it for $45,000, which she claimed we needed for home renovations. The buyer picked it up before I even knew it was being sold. Preston jumped in. Your Honor, this is a separate issue. It's the same issue, Philip interrupted smoothly. Mr. Wilde is asking you to freeze assets because Mr. Thorne liquidated marital property. But his client did exactly the same thing 2 days earlier. If selling marital property without spousal consent is grounds for an emergency motion, then Mrs. Thorne set the precedent. Judge Helms leaned back in her chair. Mr. Wilde, Did your client sell her husband's car without his permission? Veronica whispered something to Preston. His jaw tightened. Mrs. Thorne believed the car to be marital property, Preston said carefully. She was under the impression. The car was titled solely in Mr. Thorne's name, Philip said, handing documents to the bailiff. Purchased 3 years before the marriage. Restored by Mr. Thorne and his late father. Never retitled during the marriage. It was his separate property, Your Honor. And Mrs. Thorne forged his signature to sell it. Judge Helms examined the documents. These do appear to show forgery. The signatures don't match. Your Honor, Preston tried again, we're getting distracted from the main issue. Which is what, exactly? Judge Helms looked at him over her glasses. Your client sold property that wasn't hers to sell, forged legal documents to do it, and then cried foul when her husband did the same thing with actual marital property? Is that your argument? My client is concerned about financial abuse. As is mine, Philip said. Your Honor, we have extensive documentation of Mrs. Thorne's financial impropriety during this marriage. She's opened credit cards in both their names without Mr. Thorne's knowledge. She's been draining their joint account to pay for— Your Honor! Preston's voice rose. This is completely inappropriate. We're here for an emergency motion, not a full financial disclosure. You brought up financial abuse, Judge Helms said dryly. Mr. Carter is responding. Continue, Mr. Carter. Philip opened one of his file boxes. Your Honor, Mrs. Thorne has been paying rent on an apartment she uses to conduct an extramarital affair. $3,000 per month from the joint account. We have bank statements showing regular payments to the same address over 8 months. We also have photographs. Objection! Preston was on his feet. This is character assassination, not relevant to— It's relevant to financial abuse, Philip said calmly. Mrs. Thorne has spent approximately $30,000 of marital funds supporting her affair, in addition to regular charges for hotels, restaurants, and gifts for her paramour. All documented. All from joint accounts. The courtroom was silent. I watched Veronica's face go pale. She'd known about the affair evidence eventually coming out, but she hadn't expected it today. Not like this. Not so quickly. Judge Helms looked at the documents Philip had submitted. Then she looked at Veronica. Mrs. Thorne, are you having an affair? Veronica's voice was barely audible. That's private. This is a divorce proceeding. Nothing's private. Are you having an affair, and have you been using marital funds to support it? Preston put his hand on Veronica's arm, but she shook him off. Yes, but Marcus, he was never home. He was always working. I was lonely. That's not an answer to my question. Did you use marital funds to pay for an apartment for your affair? Yes. Judge Helms closed the file folder. Mr. Wilde, I'm denying your emergency motion. Both parties have liquidated marital property without spousal consent. Both parties have engaged in questionable financial behavior. The appropriate venue for resolving these issues is the divorce proceedings, not an emergency hearing. But, Your Honor, however, Judge Helms continued, fixing both tables with a stern look, I am ordering both parties to freeze all remaining marital assets effective immediately. No more sales, no more transfers, no more taking matters into your own hands. Everything gets documented and divided through proper legal channels. Am I clear? Yes, Your Honor, Philip said. Preston looked like he'd swallowed something bitter. Yes, Your Honor. Good. Next hearing is scheduled for 3 weeks from today. Both parties will provide complete financial disclosure at that time. All assets, all debts, all financial transactions from the past 5 years. And if I find out either of you has hidden or moved assets, I will not be pleased. Understood? We both agreed. As we stood to leave, I finally looked at Veronica. Really looked at her. She was crying silently, her carefully applied makeup running. Preston was whispering urgently in her ear, probably telling her not to say anything, not to react. But she looked at me, met my eyes for the first time since I'd walked into the courtroom. And I saw it clearly, the realization that she'd miscalculated, that the husband she'd thought she could manipulate and control was someone else entirely, that the game she'd been playing had rules she didn't understand. Outside the courthouse, media was waiting. Cameras, reporters, microphones thrust toward us as we exited. "Mr. Thorne, did the judge rule in your favor? Mr. Thorne, do you regret selling your wife's jewelry? Mr. Thorne, is it true your wife is having an affair?" Philip and I kept walking, not answering. This was exactly what we'd discussed. Don't engage with media. Let them speculate. The truth would come out in court, not in sound bites. But behind us, I heard Preston talking. My client has been the victim of financial and emotional abuse. We're confident that the full facts will demonstrate Mr. Thorne's pattern of controlling behavior. I wanted to turn around, wanted to confront him, but Philip's hand on my arm kept me moving forward. "Don't," he said quietly. "Let him talk. Every word he says now can be used against him later." We reached his car. Once inside, with the doors closed and the media finally at a distance, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. "That went well," Philip said. "Did it?" "She's still spinning the abuse narrative." And the judge saw right through it. "Marcus, judges aren't stupid. They've seen every manipulation tactic in existence. When Preston tried to paint you as financially abusive, and then the evidence came out about her affair and the apartment and the spending, Judge Helms understood exactly what was happening. So what happens next? Next, we prepare for the full financial disclosure. And Marcus, we need to talk about what comes out in discovery. Because once we open those books completely, Preston is going to find things. Things about your business, your income, your assets. Are there any surprises we need to prepare for? No. My business is legitimate, profitable, and completely above board. My income is documented. I've never hidden assets or evaded taxes. Everything is exactly what it appears to be. Good. Because the only way we lose this case is if they can prove you've been dishonest. As long as we're transparent and they're the ones with secrets, we win. I spent the rest of that Wednesday dealing with the aftermath of the hearing. Calls from friends who'd seen the news coverage, texts from family members offering support, and more angry messages from Veronica, which I screenshot and forwarded to Philip without responding. "She's losing control," I told Harrison that evening over beers at a quiet bar. "And she can't handle it." "How are you handling it?" "Better than I expected. I thought I'd be angrier. But mostly I just feel relieved. Like finally telling the truth is easier than pretending everything was fine. The car thing, though, that had to hurt. It did. It still does. That car was... I paused, trying to find words. It was the last piece of my dad I had. The last thing we built together. And she just sold it like it was nothing. Like it meant nothing. Have you tried to get it back? Find the buyer? Philip's looking into it. But even if we find the buyer, even if they're willing to sell it back, it's not the same. It's tainted now. Every time I'd look at it, I'd think about what Veronica did. So what are you going to do? Move on. That's all I can do. The car is gone. The marriage is over. I can either stay stuck in anger about what was taken, or I can build something new. That's very zen of you. It's very expensive therapy of me. I've been seeing a counselor twice a week since I found out about the affair. Harrison raised his eyebrows. Really? Really. Philip recommended her. She specializes in high-conflict divorces, helps people process the trauma without letting it destroy their lives. Is it helping? Yeah, actually. She's the one who helped me understand that Veronica's actions aren't about me. They're about her needs, her choices, her character. I can't control that. I can only control my response. And your response is scorched earth legal warfare? My response is protecting myself using legitimate legal channels. There's a difference. We drank in silence for a while. Then Harrison said, "You know what I keep thinking about? That TV interview she did. The tears, the victim act. Did you ever see that side of her before?" Honestly, I don't know. I think maybe I saw what I wanted to see. The beautiful woman who chose me, the wife who supported my business. I didn't look too closely at how much of our money she was spending or why she was always unavailable when I wanted to do things together. Love makes us stupid. Love makes us optimistic. Which is pretty much the same thing. Thursday morning, I received an email from Bernard, the jewelry appraiser. The sale had finalized. $320,000 was now sitting in an escrow account, waiting for the court to decide how to divide it. Attached to the email was an itemized list of everything that had been sold. I went through it slowly, remembering when Veronica had gotten each piece. The diamond necklace she'd insisted we couldn't afford, but then bought anyway. The ruby earrings she'd received for our 3rd anniversary, from me, with money I'd earned. The Cartier bracelet she'd posted about endlessly on social media, showing it off to her thousands of followers. She'd been so proud of that collection, had used it to signal status, wealth, success. And now it was gone, sold to a private collector who'd probably never even wear most of it, just add it to their own hoard of expensive objects. There was poetry in that. She'd turned material goods into her identity. Now she had to figure out who she was without them. My phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. I answered cautiously. "Mr. Thorne, this is Stephanie Morrison, Blake's wife." I sat up straight. "Mrs. Morrison, I'm sorry about everything. Don't be. You're not the one who destroyed my marriage. That was Blake and your wife." Her voice was steady, but I could hear the pain underneath. "I wanted to thank you for having those divorce papers served, for not letting me stay ignorant. I thought you deserved to know the truth." "I did. And now I do. My lawyer contacted yours. I hope that's okay. We have some overlapping interests in making sure Blake and Veronica face consequences for what they've done." "What kind of consequences?" "Blake owns part of a gym, used marital funds to buy into it. Guess who his business partner is? Veronica? Close. Veronica's brother, Tyler, who may or may not have known about the affair but definitely helped Blake hide money from me. My lawyer thinks we might have a case for fraud. This was news. Veronica's brother is Blake's business partner? Has been for 2 years. And the gym? It's been a convenient way to move money around. Pay Veronica for consulting services. Pay Blake inflated salaries. All while telling me we couldn't afford family vacations because money was tight. Mrs. Morrison, Stephanie, I had no idea. Neither did I. But my forensic accountant found it. And I think your lawyer needs to know about it, because if Veronica and Blake have been using the gym to hide money, that affects your divorce too. After we hung up, I immediately called Philip and told him everything Stephanie had said. A gym business? Philip's voice was sharp with interest. With Veronica's brother? And she never mentioned this? Never. I didn't even know Tyler owned a gym, because she was hiding it. Marcus, this could be significant. If Veronica has been funneling money through her brother's business, that's marital funds she hasn't disclosed. We need to dig into this. How? Subpoena Tyler's business records, bank statements for the gym, tax returns. If there's money hidden there, we'll find it. Won't Preston fight that? Probably. But Judge Helms already ordered complete financial disclosure. That includes business interests. If Veronica has a financial relationship with this gym, she should have disclosed it. The fact that she didn't is very interesting. Friday afternoon, I had a therapy session. My counselor, Dr. Amy Weber, listened as I recounted the week's events, the court hearing, the media coverage, the revelation about the gym. How are you feeling about all of this? She asked. Vindicated mostly. Every day, more evidence comes out that I was right to protect myself, right to document everything, right to assume Veronica was being dishonest. And how does vindication feel? Not as good as I thought it would. I thought proving I was right would make me feel better, but it just makes me sad. Sad that my marriage was this broken. Sad that the woman I loved was capable of such calculated betrayal. That's a healthy response. You're allowing yourself to grieve while still protecting yourself practically. That's difficult to balance. I keep thinking about the car, my dad's car, and I know it's just metal and rubber and glass, but it represented something, and she destroyed it without even caring. She didn't destroy the memories. She can't take away what you and your father built together, not the relationship, not the lessons, not the love. The car was a symbol, but the reality of what it represented, that's still yours. Then why does it feel like she took something irreplaceable? Because she did. She took your sense of safety in your marriage, your ability to trust, your belief that your partner would respect what mattered to you. Those are real losses, Marcus. And you're allowed to grieve them. We talked for another 40 minutes about grief and anger and how to process betrayal without letting it poison your future. Dr. Weber gave me homework. Write a letter to my father, telling him what the car had meant, what I'd learned from losing it. You don't have to send it anywhere, she said. Just write it. Get those feelings out. That night, in my hotel room, I tried to write the letter. It was harder than I'd expected. Every time I started, emotion would overwhelm me, and I'd have to stop. But eventually I managed. Dad, Veronica sold the Mustang. I know you'd understand why that hurts so much. That car wasn't just a car. It was every Saturday we spent in the garage, every lesson you taught me about patience and craftsmanship, every moment when it was just you and me working towards something together. She sold it for $45,000, said we needed the money for home renovations. But really, she sold it to prove she could. To show me that what mattered to me didn't matter to her. I'm getting divorced. I know you'd have mixed feelings about that. You always said marriage was work, that you fight for it even when it's hard. But I think there's a difference between fighting for a marriage and fighting a losing battle. Veronica doesn't want to be married to me. She wants to be married to what I can give her. And I'm done giving. I'm going to buy another car, not a Mustang. That would feel like trying to replace what we had, and I can't do that. But something that's mine. Something that represents moving forward instead of looking back. I miss you. I wish you were here to tell me if I'm handling this the right way. But I think you'd understand. You always said the measure of a man is how he handles adversity. I'm trying to handle this with integrity, with honesty, with the values you taught me. I hope that's enough. Love. Marcus, I read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it and put it in my wallet. A reminder of what I'd lost and what I was fighting to protect. The weekend passed quietly. I spent Saturday at the office, catching up on work I'd been neglecting. Harrison kept me company, and we worked through several project plans in comfortable silence. You seem calmer, he observed around lunchtime. I'm accepting what I can't change. The car is gone. The marriage is over. Fighting reality is exhausting. What about what you can change? That's where I'm focusing my energy, making sure Veronica faces consequences, making sure I don't lose anything else, building a future that doesn't include her. Sunday, I went to a classic car show. Not to buy anything, not yet, but just to be around cars again. To remember why I'd loved restoring the Mustang with my father, to think about what I might want next. I wandered through rows of vintage vehicles, admiring the work people had put into them. Each car represented hundreds of hours of labor, thousands of dollars in parts, immeasurable amounts of passion. These weren't just transportation, they were art, history, love made tangible. An older man standing beside a pristine 1969 Camaro noticed me admiring his car. Beautiful, isn't she? Gorgeous. How long did the restoration take? 5 years. Me and my son working every weekend. Started when he was 13. Finished when he was 18. That's a hell of a bonding experience. Best 5 years of my life. My son's in college now, studying engineering. Says working on this car is what made him want to understand how things work. Can't put a price on that. We talked for a while about restoration techniques, engine specifications, the joy of bringing old machines back to life. When I mentioned my own Mustang project with my father, the man's expression softened. Where's the car now? Gone. Wife sold it during our divorce. His face darkened. That's criminal. These cars are about more than money. They're about family, history, memory. She didn't understand that, or didn't care. I'm sorry, son. That's a terrible loss. As I walked away, I felt something shift inside me. The car was gone, but the memories weren't. The lessons my father taught me about patience, precision, seeing a project through, those were mine forever. Veronica couldn't sell those. Monday brought the beginning of full financial discovery. Both sides had to submit complete documentation of assets, income, debts, and spending for the past 5 years. Philip had prepared meticulously. We had everything organized, labeled, ready to go. Veronica's disclosure is going to be interesting, Philip said during our morning meeting. Preston's had a week to gather documents. Let's see what he produces. The documents arrived via courier at 4 p.m. 3 boxes, much smaller than our submission. Philip and I went through them systematically. This is incomplete, Philip said after the first box. She's listed assets but provided no documentation for half of them. The credit cards she opened, she's claiming they don't exist. And the gym business with her brother? Not mentioned at all. So she's lying in her financial disclosure? Lying or incompetent. Either way, it's grounds for sanctions. Philip made notes. We'll file a motion for more complete discovery. Force her to produce the documents she's hiding. In the second box, we found something interesting. Bank statements for an account I'd never known about. An account in Veronica's name only, with regular deposits over the past 2 years. Where is this money coming from? I asked, looking at deposits ranging from $2,000 to $5,000 appearing every few weeks. Philip examined the statements. No employer listed. No explanation. Just regular cash deposits. Marcus, do you have any idea what this is? None. I didn't even know this account existed. This could be her hiding marital funds, or it could be income she hasn't reported. Either way, it's significant. He added it to his growing list of issues. We're going to need to depose her about this. A deposition. That meant Veronica would have to sit in a room and answer questions under oath. No Preston running interference, no prepared statements, just her, a court reporter, and the truth. When can we schedule it? I asked. I'll request dates this week. But Marcus, you need to prepare. Preston will depose you too. He's going to ask about your business, your income, any financial decisions you made during the marriage. You need to be ready. I've got nothing to hide. Everyone has something. The key is being honest about it before Preston can use it against you. Tuesday evening, I received an unexpected call. The buyer who'd purchased my Mustang. Mr. Thorne, my name is Gerald Hayes. I bought your 1967 Shelby Mustang last Saturday. My heart rate increased. Yes? I wanted to contact you because, well, I learned some things about the sale that troubled me. Your wife never mentioned you were unaware of the transaction. She represented herself as the sole owner, showed me a title with what I now understand was a forged signature. That's correct. Mr. Thorne, I'm a collector. I've been buying and restoring classic cars for 30 years. And one thing I've learned is that these cars often have stories that matter more than their market value. Your wife told me this was just an investment property for her, but I've done some research. I found articles about you and your father restoring this car. I found photos from car shows you attended together. This wasn't just a car to you. No, it wasn't. I want to return it. I couldn't speak for a moment. You want to... What? I want to return the car. I'll take a loss on the transaction. I don't care. What your wife did was wrong. And I don't want to profit from something that caused someone else pain. Mr. Hayes, that's incredibly generous, but you paid $45,000. I did. And your wife hasn't cashed the check yet. My bank called today to confirm the hold. I've stopped payment. The transaction is void. But she sold the car. The title was transferred, with a forged signature, which makes the transfer fraudulent. Mr. Thorne, I've already contacted my attorney. We're prepared to testify in your divorce proceedings if necessary. This car should never have been sold. After we hung up, I sat in my hotel room, stunned. A complete stranger was giving back my father's car, refusing profit to do the right thing. I called Philip immediately. The buyer wants to return the Mustang. He's voiding the sale, stopping payment on his check, willing to testify about the forgery. That's huge. Marcus, this completely undermines Veronica's claim that the car was marital property. If the buyer testifies that she forged your signature and misrepresented her ownership, that's fraud. Clear, documented fraud. Can we use this? Can we use it? We're going to build a case around it. Get Gerald Hayes' contact information. I need to talk to him about testifying. Wednesday afternoon, Gerald Hayes drove the Mustang to Philip's office. I met him there, hardly believing this was happening. The car looked exactly as I remembered. Same deep blue paint, same chrome details, same leather interior my father and I had restored. Gerald got out, handed me the keys. "She's all yours. I've had the title transfer reversed. You're the legal owner again. Mr. Hayes, I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to. I've got 3 kids of my own. If someone sold something my kids and I had built together, I'd hope somebody would do the right thing for them too." We shook hands. Then Gerald left, and I was alone with my father's car. I sat in the driver's seat, hands on the steering wheel, and let myself cry. Not from sadness, but from relief, from gratitude, from the overwhelming feeling that sometimes justice actually worked. Philip came out to the parking lot and found me there. "You okay?" "Yeah, just overwhelmed. I thought this was gone forever." "It's not gone. It's home. And Marcus? This changes everything. Veronica can't claim financial abuse anymore. She can't claim you were controlling. She literally committed fraud, and we have the victim willing to testify about it. What happens now? Now we schedule her deposition, and we ask her under oath about the forged signature, about why she sold property that wasn't hers, about the $45,000 she claimed to have gotten but never actually received. We corner her with the truth. The deposition was scheduled for the following Monday. Both Veronica and I would be deposed, her first, me second. Philip spent the weekend preparing me. "Preston is going to try to paint you as controlling," Philip explained. "He'll ask about financial decisions, about how you managed money, about whether you let Veronica have access to accounts. You need to stay calm and truthful. Don't get defensive. What if he asks about the jewelry? Then you explain, calmly, that you liquidated marital property using the same logic she used to sell your car. You weren't being vindictive. You were following her example. What about my business? Will he go after that? Probably. He'll try to claim you've been hiding income or undervaluing the business. That's why we've prepared complete documentation. Financial statements, tax returns, everything that proves you've been completely transparent." Monday morning, I arrived at Philip's office at 8 a.m. for Veronica's deposition. It was held in a conference room, Veronica at one end of the table, Preston beside her, me at the other end with Philip, and a court reporter in the middle documenting everything. Veronica looked tired. The past 2 weeks had clearly taken their toll. Her hair wasn't quite as perfect as usual. Her makeup was heavier, probably covering dark circles. She wouldn't look at me. Preston started with basic questions: Veronica's background, our marriage history, how we'd met. Veronica answered in a quiet voice, occasionally glancing at Preston for reassurance. Then Philip began his questions. "Mrs. Thorne, do you understand you're under oath?" "Yes." "And you understand that lying under oath is perjury?" "Yes." "Good. Let's talk about the 1967 Shelby Mustang GT 500 that you sold on Saturday, March 16th. Do you recall that sale?" "Yes." "Who owned that car?" "It was marital property." "Was it titled in both your names?" A pause. "No." "Whose name was on the title?" "Marcus's." "Did you ask Mr. Thorne's permission before selling the car?" "No." "Did you inform him after the sale?" "Yes." "I told him that morning. After the car was already gone?" "Yes." "Did you sign the title transfer documents?" Veronica looked at Preston. He nodded slightly. "Yes." "In whose name did you sign?" "Marcus's." "So you forged your husband's signature on a legal document?" It was marital property. I had the right." "That's not what I asked. Did you forge Marcus Thorne's signature on the title transfer?" "Yes." Philip let that sit for a moment. "You committed fraud to sell a car that wasn't yours." "Objection," Preston said. Argumentative. I'll rephrase. "Mrs. Thorne, are you aware that forging someone's signature on a legal document is illegal?" "I thought, we're married. I thought it was allowed." "Did you consult an attorney before forging your husband's signature?" "No." "Did you research the legal implications?" "No. You just assumed you could forge a legal document and face no consequences?" "I needed the money." "For what?" Veronica hesitated. Kitchen renovations. Really? Because I have bank statements showing no payments to contractors, no purchases of materials, no kitchen-related expenses in the 3 weeks since you sold the car. Where did that money actually go? I haven't spent it yet. Oh? Where is it then? Another hesitation. I don't have it. You don't have $45,000 you allegedly received for the car? The buyer. He stopped payment on the check. Why would he do that? I don't know. You don't know? Mrs. Thorne, did the buyer perhaps discover that you'd forged the title and committed fraud? Objection, Preston said again. Counsel is badgering the witness. I'm asking factual questions about documented fraud, Philip said calmly. Your client forged a signature, lied to a buyer, and attempted to steal property. These are facts, not opinions. The deposition continued for 3 more hours. Philip asked about the secret bank account, about the credit cards Veronica had opened, about money transferred to Blake Morrison, about the apartment she'd been renting for her affair. Veronica's answers became increasingly evasive. She claimed not to remember. She said Preston had told her not to answer certain questions. She cried twice, both times when confronted with her own bank statements showing payments to Blake. By the time we broke for lunch, Veronica looked devastated. Preston looked furious. And Philip looked satisfied. That went well, he told me as we ate sandwiches in his office. She admitted to forgery. She can't explain where the money went. She's evasive about her affair finances. Any jury would see she's hiding something. What about my deposition this afternoon? Be honest. Be thorough. Don't get emotional. Preston's going to try to rattle you, but you've got nothing to hide. My deposition started at 2 p.m. Preston began aggressively, asking detailed questions about my business finances, my income, my assets. I answered everything calmly, referring to documentation when necessary. Mr. Thorne, isn't it true you've been planning this divorce for months? It's true I've been preparing for divorce for 6 months, yes. Preparing how? Documenting my wife's affair, protecting my assets, consulting with an attorney. So you were secretly plotting against your wife? I was protecting myself after discovering her betrayal. There's a difference. You never confronted her about the alleged affair? I did confront her, after she sold my car and I filed for divorce. But for 6 months before that, you let her believe everything was fine? She made her choices believing everything was fine. I made my choices knowing the truth. That's not plotting. That's being prepared. Preston asked about the jewelry. I explained calmly that I'd liquidated marital property using the same logic Veronica had used for the car, that every piece had been purchased during our marriage with joint funds, that I had documentation for all of it. Weren't you just trying to hurt your wife, taking things you knew she valued? I was protecting marital assets and ensuring they were properly valued for divorce proceedings. If my wife valued the jewelry, perhaps she should have considered that before teaching me that marital property could be sold without spousal consent. That's quite cold, Mr. Thorne. That's quite strategic, Mr. Wilde. My wife forged my signature to steal my father's car. I responded by legally liquidating marital property with proper documentation and escrow. One of us committed fraud, the other didn't. Can you tell the difference? Preston didn't like that. The deposition continued for another 2 hours, but he couldn't shake my story because it was true. Everything I'd done was legal, documented, and justifiable. By the time we finished, it was after 5 p.m. Veronica and Preston had already left. Philip and I sat in his office, exhausted but pleased. You did great, Philip said. Stayed calm, answered honestly, didn't take his bait. The depositions are going to look very different when a judge reviews them. Veronica evasive and caught in lies, you transparent and factual. What happens next? Next, we use these depositions to negotiate settlement. We show Preston that going to trial would be a disaster for Veronica. We offer reasonable terms. You keep your business and your car, she gets a fair share of other marital assets. Nobody goes to jail for fraud. Most divorces settle once the evidence is clear. And if Preston doesn't want to settle, then we go to trial. And we destroy them. The days following the depositions were strange. I'd moved back into the house. Veronica had moved out completely, staying with her mother while the divorce proceeded. Walking through rooms that had once been ours but were now just mine felt surreal. I'd changed everything. New furniture in the bedroom, different arrangement in the living room, fresh paint in the kitchen. Ironically, the kitchen Veronica had claimed we needed $45,000 to renovate. I spent $3,000 and it looked better than it ever had. The Mustang sat in the garage where it belonged. I visited it every morning, running my hands over the hood, checking the engine, making sure it was real, that it was really back. "You're acting like it might disappear again," Harrison observed one evening when he stopped by. "Because part of me thinks it might, that this is all a dream, and I'll wake up, and it'll be gone again. It's not going anywhere. Gerald Hayes made sure of that. I'd sent Gerald Hayes a gift basket and a thank you note. It felt inadequate. How do you thank someone for giving back something priceless? But he'd responded graciously, saying seeing the car back with its rightful owner was thanks enough. 2 weeks after the depositions, Preston called Philip requesting a settlement meeting. "He knows he can't win," Philip told me. "The depositions are too damaging. The fraud is documented. Veronica's financial misconduct is proven. He wants to negotiate before this goes to trial. What are our terms? You keep the car, your business, and your premarital assets. The house, since it was purchased during the marriage, gets split 50-50. Same with other marital assets. Veronica returns any money she's hidden. No spousal support for either party. Clean break. And the jewelry money? The $320,000? Split 50-50, same as other assets. You liquidated it legally, and we can prove it was marital property. She gets half, you get half. So after everything, she still gets money? She gets what's legally hers. That's how divorce works. But Marcus, she's not getting away with anything. She loses the relationship, loses her reputation, loses her claim to your business and your car. She gets her legal share of marital assets. That's fair. The settlement meeting was scheduled for the following Tuesday. Both sides, both lawyers, in a neutral conference room downtown. I wore a suit. Veronica wore black, like she was attending a funeral. We sat across from each other for the first time since the depositions. She looked different, thinner, harder, with an edge of desperation I'd never seen before. Preston started. "My client is willing to settle under the following terms." "Let me stop you there," Philip interrupted. "Your client doesn't get to dictate terms. She committed fraud, hid assets, and lied in her financial disclosure. We're offering generous terms despite that. You should take them." Preston's jaw tightened. "My client believes what your client believes is irrelevant. The facts are clear. Now, do you want to settle, or do we go to trial and let a judge review those depositions?" They went back and forth for an hour, Preston trying to get more money, more assets, more concessions. Philip holding firm on our terms. I watched Veronica the whole time. She wouldn't look at me, just stared at the table, occasionally whispering to Preston. Finally, Preston turned to Veronica. "They're not budging. I need your approval to accept these terms." Veronica's voice was barely audible. "What if I don't accept? Then we go to trial, and Veronica, I have to be honest, we'll probably lose. The evidence against you is substantial. You admitted to forgery under oath. The affair is documented. The hidden money is proven. A judge isn't going to look favorably on any of that. So I just give up? You accept a fair settlement. You walk away with half the marital assets. Under the circumstances, that's the best outcome we can hope for." Veronica finally looked at me. "You planned this. From the beginning, you planned to destroy me." "No," I said quietly. "You destroyed our marriage. I just made sure you couldn't destroy me in the process. I loved you. You loved what I could give you. There's a difference. That's not... I made mistakes. I admit that. But you were so calculating, so cold. You let me believe everything was fine while you were secretly gathering evidence against me. You let me believe our marriage was fine while you were sleeping with Blake. Which one of us was more dishonest? I was lonely. You were always working, always focused on your business. I was building a life for us. You were spending the money I earned on an affair. Don't pretend those things are equivalent. Preston put his hand on Veronica's arm. Don't engage. This isn't productive. But Veronica shook him off. You want to know why I sold your car? Because I was tired of competing with a dead man. Your father's been gone for 10 years, but you still act like he's more important than me. That car, those memories, you cared more about them than about us. Because us was a lie. The whole time you were pretending to be my wife, you were planning to leave. You opened credit cards in my name. You hid money. You forged my signature. You weren't my partner. You were a thief who happened to have a marriage license. Enough, Philip said firmly. This isn't a therapy session. Veronica, do you accept the settlement terms or not? She was crying now. I don't have a choice, do I? You always had a choice, I said. You could have been honest. You could have been faithful. You could have treated our marriage like it mattered. You chose not to. Now you're facing consequences. That's not my fault. That's yours. Preston pushed the settlement papers across the table. Sign. Veronica signed. Messy signature, shaking hand, tears dropping onto the paper. But she signed. I signed too. Clean, steady, final. The marriage is officially dissolved, Philip said. Assets will be divided per these terms. Neither party will have further claims on the other. Mr. Thorne will pay $160,000 to Mrs. Thorne within 30 days, her share of the jewelry sale and other liquid assets. Mrs. Thorne will remove her belongings from the marital home within 60 days. Both parties are restricted from disparaging each other publicly. It was done. 5 years of marriage ended with signatures on paper and a check to be written. Veronica left without saying anything else. Preston gathered his papers and followed her out. How do you feel? Philip asked once they were gone. Relieved, sad, angry that it came to this. But mostly relieved. You handled yourself well. Throughout this entire process, you stayed rational and strategic. A lot of people can't do that. I had good help. You had good documentation. That's what won this case. Not legal brilliance, but the fact that you protected yourself from day one. I wrote the check to Veronica that evening. $160,000, half the jewelry sale proceeds, half the other liquid assets. It hurt to write it. Not because of the money itself, but because it felt like rewarding her for betraying me. But Philip was right. This was about fairness, not revenge. She got what was legally hers. Nothing more, nothing less. The check was delivered by courier the next day. I got a one-word text response from Veronica. Thanks. That was it. 5 years of marriage reduced to a financial transaction and a word of thanks. I spent the next month reclaiming my life, reorganizing the house, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected during the marriage, taking the Mustang to car shows like my father and I used to do. At one show, an older man admired the car and asked about its history. My father and I restored it together, I said. It took 3 summers, best time of my life. Where's your father now? Passed away 10 years ago. But every time I drive this car, I feel like he's riding with me. That's beautiful. You're lucky to have something that keeps his memory alive. I am lucky. I almost lost this car, but someone did the right thing and made sure I got it back. Sounds like there's a story there. There is, a long, complicated, painful story. But it ends with me keeping what matters. The man smiled. Those are the best kind of endings. Harrison convinced me to try dating again. You're divorced, you're successful, you've got your life together. It's time to get back out there. It's been 2 months since the settlement. That's too soon. It's been 6 months since you emotionally checked out of your marriage. You're ready. He set me up with a friend of his, a woman named Carly who worked in marketing. We met for coffee and it was fine, perfectly pleasant, but there was no spark, no connection. Just 2 people having a polite conversation and then going their separate ways. Not every date is going to be magic, Harrison said when I reported back. Sometimes you need to build chemistry over time, or sometimes you need to heal before you're ready to start something new. Fair point. I focused on work instead. My business had suffered during the divorce. I'd been distracted, unavailable, not giving it the attention it needed. Harrison had kept things running, but we'd lost a few clients and delayed some projects. Time to rebuild, I told him during a Monday morning meeting. New clients, new projects, new energy. The divorce is over. Now we focus on growth. Music to my ears. I've got 3 potential clients who want to meet with us this week. We threw ourselves into work. Long days, ambitious projects, the kind of focus I'd been missing for months. It felt good to care about something again. To build something that couldn't be taken away by signatures on paper. 3 months after the settlement, I got an unexpected email from Blake Morrison's wife, Stephanie. Marcus, I wanted to let you know that my divorce from Blake finalized last week. It was ugly. He fought everything, but eventually the evidence was too strong. He lost his share of the gym business. Turns out he'd been embezzling from it anyway. Lost custody of our kids except supervised visitation, and ended up in debt after paying what he owed me. I know it probably doesn't matter to you, but I wanted you to know that Blake and Veronica aren't together anymore either. Apparently, when she realized he was broke and facing potential criminal charges for the embezzlement, she dropped him. They're both alone now, both broke, both facing the consequences of their choices. I'm not writing this to gloat. I'm writing because I'm grateful. You showing me the truth, having those divorce papers served, it saved me years of being deceived. I got out, protected my kids, and built a new life. Thank you for that. If you ever need anything, let me know. We survivors have to stick together. Stephanie, I wrote back. Stephanie, I'm so glad you got through this and came out stronger. You deserved better than what Blake gave you. As for Veronica and Blake, I'm not surprised. Relationships built on betrayal rarely last. They thought they were in love, but they were just in lust with the excitement of doing something forbidden. I don't need anything, but thank you for offering. And you're right, survivors do need to stick together. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. Best, Marcus 4 months post-divorce, I took the Mustang to a regional car show, the same one my father and I had attended years ago. I walked through displays of beautifully restored vehicles, admiring the work that had gone into each one. A woman around my age was standing beside a 1970 Dodge Challenger, taking photos. She had dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and oil stains on her jeans. That's a beautiful Challenger, I said. She looked up and smiled. Thanks. 3 years of restoration. Just finished last month. You did it yourself? Mostly. My dad helped with some of the engine work, but yeah, it's been my project. We started talking about restoration techniques, parts suppliers, the satisfaction of bringing old machines back to life. Her name was Andrea. She was a mechanical engineer, 34, divorced for 2 years. What about you? She asked. You here with a car? Yeah, 1967. Shelby Mustang. Over there. I pointed. Oh, wow. That's a serious machine. Restore it yourself? With my dad, years ago. It's got a complicated history, but I'm just glad to still have it. We talked for another hour. About cars, about life, about the strange comfort of working with your hands on something mechanical and straightforward. At the end, she asked if I wanted to grab dinner sometime. I'd like that, I said. We exchanged numbers. She texted me that evening. Really enjoyed talking to you. It's rare to meet someone who actually understands why people care about old cars. Same. Looking forward to dinner. I wasn't ready for anything serious. Wasn't ready to trust completely, but I was ready to try. Ready to believe that not everyone was like Veronica. That it was possible to build something real with someone honest. Harrison was delighted when I told him about Andrea. Finally, a woman who actually shares your interests. This is promising. Don't get ahead of yourself. It's just dinner. It's never just dinner. It's the beginning of something, or it's 2 people having a meal and then going home alone. Managing expectations is how you avoid disappointment. You're very cynical for someone who's only been divorced 4 months. I prefer realistic. Cynical would be refusing to date at all. Dinner with Andrea was easy. We talked about cars, about work, about our respective divorces. She'd left her husband after discovering he'd been gambling away their savings. I'm an engineer, she said. I need things to make sense, to follow logic. A marriage where one person is secretly destroying your financial future? That doesn't make sense. Did you see it coming? Not at all. That's what bothered me most. I thought I was smart enough to notice if something was wrong. Turns out love makes you stupid, or at least blind. That's the hardest lesson to learn. That you can do everything right and still get hurt. But you learn from it. My next relationship, if there is one, I'll be paying attention. Asking questions. Not assuming good faith. That's sad, though. That we have to be suspicious to protect ourselves. It's realistic. Optimism is great until it gets you hurt. We had a second dinner, then a third. Started texting regularly. She sent me photos of a carburetor she was rebuilding. I sent her pictures of a new exhaust system I was considering for the Mustang. I like her, I told Harrison. She's honest, straightforward, no games. Does she know about Veronica, about what happened? Broadly. I told her I got divorced because my wife was having an affair and sold my father's car. She got it immediately, said anyone who'd sell something with that kind of emotional value was either cruel or oblivious. So when are you making it official? Making what official? Girlfriend, boyfriend? The relationship talk. We've been on 3 dates, Harrison. Let's not rush things. But I was thinking about it, thinking about what it might be like to trust someone again. To build something new without the shadow of Veronica hanging over it. 6 months after the divorce, I was in a relationship with Andrea, official, exclusive, genuinely happy. She met my mother, who approved immediately. She's real, my mother said after dinner. Not performing, not trying to impress. Just herself. That's what I like about her. What you see is what you get. After Veronica, you deserve someone genuine. I'd stopped thinking about Veronica most days. Stopped checking her social media. I'd blocked her everywhere. Stopped wondering what she was doing or who she was with. She was simply part of my past, like college or my first job. Something that had happened and was now over. The jewelry money she'd received was apparently gone within months. Stephanie had heard through mutual acquaintances that Veronica was living with her mother, working a retail job, struggling to pay bills. The lifestyle she'd built on my income had evaporated. I felt no satisfaction in that, no vindication, just a mild acknowledgement that actions have consequences. Do you ever regret how you handled the divorce? Andrea asked one evening as we worked on her Challenger in her garage. You mean selling the jewelry? Yeah, and the way you documented everything. Some people would call it calculating. Some people would be right. I was calculating. But I don't regret it. Veronica taught me that marriage doesn't automatically mean trust. That sometimes you have to protect yourself even from the person you promised forever to. That's depressing. It's realistic. I won't make that mistake again. Next time, if there is a next time, I'll be more careful, more aware, more willing to ask hard questions. Is that a warning? Are you going to investigate me? I already did. Background check, financial records, the works. She laughed. You're joking, mostly joking, but I did verify you are who you say you are. Can you blame me? Not even a little. After what you went through, I'd be suspicious too. That's what I appreciated about Andrea. She understood, didn't judge, didn't expect me to just get over it and trust blindly again. She accepted that I'd been hurt and needed time to heal. 7 months post-divorce, I sold the house. It was too big, too full of memories I didn't want anymore. I bought a smaller place closer to work, with a 2-car garage perfect for the Mustang, and whatever project car I decided to restore next. Andrea helped me move. We spent a Saturday loading boxes into a truck, organizing furniture, making the new place feel like home. This is better, she said, looking around the empty living room. Fresh start, no ghosts. Exactly what I needed. What are you going to do with the extra garage space? I was thinking about another restoration project. Maybe a truck this time. Something my dad and I never got around to building. I could help. If you want company, I'd like that. We stood in my new garage, surrounded by boxes and possibilities, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not naive hope that everything would be perfect, but realistic hope that things could be good, that I could build something worth keeping. 8 months after the divorce, I got an email from Veronica, the first contact we'd had since the settlement. Marcus, I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I needed to write this. Not because I expect anything, not forgiveness, not sympathy, nothing. Just because you deserve to know that I understand now what I did. I destroyed our marriage, not because you were a bad husband or I was lonely or any of the excuses I told myself. I destroyed it because I was selfish and entitled and I thought I deserved more than I'd earned. Selling your father's car was the worst thing I've ever done. I knew what that car meant to you. I knew it was about more than money or metal. And I sold it anyway, to prove I could. To punish you for caring about something more than you cared about me. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. The damage I caused. The trust I destroyed. The life I threw away. I hope you're happy. You deserve to be happy. You were a good husband and I was a terrible wife. I'm sorry. Veronica, I read the email 3 times. Felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no lingering hurt. Just a mild acknowledgement that she'd finally understood what I'd known all along. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. She'd apologized, I'd read it, and that was enough closure. I deleted the email and went back to planning my next restoration project with Andrea. A year after my divorce was finalized, I woke up in my new house with Andrea beside me. She'd stayed over most nights that week, and we were slowly transitioning from dating to building a life together. "Morning," she said, noticing I was awake. "Coffee? Please?" We moved through the morning routine we'd developed. She made coffee while I showered, then we switched. By the time we were both dressed, breakfast was ready and the day felt manageable. "What's on your agenda?" Andrea asked. "Meeting with a potential client at 10. Then Harrison and I have a project review this afternoon. You? Working from home today. I need to finish a design proposal by end of week. So basically, we're both going to be boring adults doing boring adult things. Welcome to your mid-30s. After she left for her own apartment, I sat in my garage with coffee, looking at the Mustang. A year ago, I'd thought I'd lost it forever. Thought Veronica had taken something irreplaceable. But it was here, restored, exactly where it belonged. The trauma of losing it had faded. I could look at the car now without thinking about betrayal or anger. It was just the car again. The thing my father and I had built together, preserved through time. My phone rang. Philip Carter. "Marcus, how are you?" "Good. Really good, actually. What's up?" "I'm calling because Veronica's lawyer contacted me. She's asking for a modification to the settlement." My stomach tightened. What kind of modification? She claims she's facing financial hardship. Can't afford rent, struggling to make ends meet. She wants you to provide spousal support. We agreed to no spousal support. That was in the settlement. I know. And she can't force you to provide it. But she can ask the court to reconsider based on changed circumstances. Her circumstances changed because she spent all her settlement money. That's not my problem. That's exactly what I told her lawyer. But Marcus, be prepared. She might go public with this. Claim you're being heartless, leaving your ex-wife destitute. Preston loves media attention, and this is the kind of story that plays well if you're not careful. Let her go public. I have documentation showing she got a fair settlement. I have bank records showing she blew through money on unnecessary expenses. If she wants to paint herself as a victim, I'll paint an accurate picture instead. That's what I hoped you'd say. The modification request was denied 2 weeks later. Judge Helms reviewed the settlement, noted that both parties had agreed to no spousal support, and ruled that Veronica's financial situation was a result of her own choices, not unfair treatment. Preston tried to appeal. That was denied too. "She's desperate," Philip explained, "trying anything to get more money, but the legal system doesn't reward bad behavior, and judges aren't stupid. They see through these tactics." I didn't hear from Veronica again after that. No more emails, no more attempts at contact, just silence, which was exactly what I needed. Andrea and I had been together for 8 months when she asked me something that had clearly been on her mind for a while. Are you ever going to get married again? We were working on a 1972 Ford F-100 I'd bought for our joint restoration project. I was under the hood. She was examining the transmission. I don't know. Maybe. Why? Because I need to know if your relationship broken or just marriage broken. There's a difference. I climbed out from under the hood. What do you mean? I mean, some people have one bad marriage and decide marriage itself is the problem. Other people realize they just married the wrong person. I need to know which one you are. What about you? You got divorced too, and I'd get married again to the right person. Because I don't think marriage is inherently flawed. I think my ex-husband was flawed. Big difference. So you're asking if I'd marry you? Eventually. Not now. We've only been together 8 months. But I'm 34, Marcus. I don't want to waste time on a relationship that's going nowhere. If you're never getting married again, I need to know. I'd get married again, I said after thinking about it. To the right person, to someone honest and genuine and capable of partnership, to someone who wouldn't sell my father's car. That's a low bar. You'd be surprised how many people can't clear it. So we're on the same page? This relationship could lead somewhere long-term? Yeah. We are. It could. She smiled. Good. Because I really like working on trucks with you, and I'd hate to give that up. 15 months after the divorce, my mother invited both Andrea and me to Sunday dinner. It was a small thing, but significant. Her way of saying she approved, that Andrea was part of the family now. You seem happy, my mother said while we were doing dishes after dinner. I am. Happier than you were with Veronica? Completely different kind of happy. With Veronica, I was happy because I thought I should be, because we looked good together on paper. This is different. Andrea and I actually enjoy each other. We have fun together. It's not performative. That's what marriage should be. Fun, easy, built on genuine affection, not social expectations. Do you think I'll marry her? I think you should if you want to. But Marcus, don't rush it. You've been divorced less than 2 years. Make sure you're ready. How do you know when you're ready? When you stop comparing every woman to Veronica. When you stop looking for red flags in normal behavior. When you can trust without documentation. That's when you're ready. I thought about that a lot over the next few months. Was I ready to trust again? To make promises without protecting myself first? To believe someone wouldn't betray me? With Andrea, I was getting there. She'd never given me reason to doubt her. Never lied, never hid things, never made me feel like I needed to verify her story. She was exactly who she claimed to be. That was worth more than any amount of documented evidence. 2 years after the divorce, I proposed to Andrea. Not with a flashy public gesture, that felt too much like performance, but privately in my garage while we were working on the truck. I want to marry you, I said, wiping grease off my hands. Not because I'm over Veronica or because I need to prove something, but because building a life with you feels right, easy, like something I want to keep doing. That's possibly the least romantic proposal I've ever heard. Is that a no? That's a yes, you idiot. But next time, maybe lead with, I love you, instead of, this feels easy. I do love you. I just express it through terrible proposals and shared restoration projects. I know. That's why I'm saying yes. We got married 6 months later. Small ceremony, immediate family only, in a park rather than a ballroom. Our vows were simple and honest. No promises we couldn't keep, no performance for anyone else. Just 2 people committing to try their best. My mother cried happy tears. Harrison was my best man. Andrea's father walked her down the aisle and whispered something that made her laugh. It was nothing like my first wedding. That had been big, expensive, designed to impress. This was intimate, meaningful, designed to last. At the reception, Harrison pulled me aside. You did it. Actually found someone genuine. I got lucky. You got smart. You learned from mistakes. That's different than luck. Maybe both. 3 years after my divorce, I sold my software company. A larger firm made an offer I couldn't refuse, and Harrison and I both agreed it was time to move on. We'd built something successful. Now it was someone else's turn. With the sale money, Andrea and I bought a larger property, space for a real workshop, room for multiple project cars, the kind of place where we could spend decades restoring vehicles together. "This is perfect," Andrea said, walking through the empty workshop. "We could fit 4 cars in here easily, maybe 6 if we're creative. What should we restore first? Something special, something that matters." We spent months searching for the right project, looked at dozens of cars. Nothing quite fit until we found it, a 1969 Camaro, completely original, owned by an elderly man who'd bought it new and couldn't maintain it anymore. "My son was supposed to restore this with me," the old man said, "but he passed away 5 years ago. I can't bear to look at it anymore. Someone should make it beautiful again." We bought the car that day, spent the next 3 years working on it together, evenings and weekends, slowly transforming rust and deterioration into something running and beautiful. "This is what I thought marriage would be with Veronica," I told Andrea one evening as we were installing a new transmission. "Working together towards something meaningful, building something that mattered to both of us." But it wasn't. It was me working while she spent money. 2 separate activities, not partnership. Is this partnership? This is perfect partnership. 4 years after my divorce, I ran into Veronica at a grocery store. We both froze, staring at each other across the produce section. She looked older, tired, like life had been harder than she'd expected. "Marcus," she said quietly. "Veronica, how are you?" "Good. Really good." "You?" "Managing. I heard you got remarried. Congratulations." "Thank you." "You seeing anyone?" "No. After Blake, after everything, I've stayed single, trying to figure out who I am without a man defining me." "That's good. Healthy." We stood in awkward silence. Then Veronica said, "I really am sorry. About the car. About everything. I think about it sometimes. About what I destroyed. I know. You told me in your email. But I wanted to say it in person. If I ever get the chance. You deserved better than what I gave you. Yeah, I did. But it worked out. I learned from it. Built something better. I'm glad. Really glad." She started to walk away, then turned back. "The jewelry. I'm sorry about that too. About calling you controlling and abusive. You were protecting yourself. I understand that now. I appreciate you saying that. Take care, Marcus. You too, Veronica." I watched her leave, pushing her cart toward the checkout, and felt nothing. No anger, no vindication, no lingering attachment. Just acknowledgement that we'd both been part of each other's lives once and now weren't. That was healing. That was closure. That was proof that I'd moved on completely. That evening, I told Andrea about the encounter. How did it feel? Seeing her? Like seeing someone I used to know but don't anymore. No emotional charge at all. That's good. That's what it should feel like. Did you ever worry I wasn't over her? That I'd compare you? At first, maybe. But you've never made me feel like I was competing with anyone. You've just been here, present, building this life with me. That's all I needed. 5 years after my divorce, 5 years of rebuilding, healing, growing, I stood in my workshop with Andrea, looking at the Camaro we'd just finished restoring. It was beautiful. Perfect. Everything we'd hoped it would be. "We did it," Andrea said, running her hand along the hood. "We did. What's next? Another project? Always. But maybe we take a break first. Enjoy this for a while. Deal." My phone buzzed. A text from Harrison. "Saw your Camaro post on Instagram. Looks incredible. You and Andrea make a hell of a team." "Thanks," I typed back. "We do." And that was the truth. Not the truth I'd thought I'd have 5 years ago, standing in my empty garage, watching Veronica walk away with the ruins of our marriage, but a better truth. A real truth. The kind built on honesty and partnership and genuine affection. Veronica had sold my father's car without asking. I'd sold her jewelry to pay for my new life. And in doing so, I'd learned something essential. Material things were just symbols. What mattered was what you built with people who deserved your trust. I'd built something with Andrea, something real, something that would last. That was better than revenge. That was better than vindication. That was just good. And after everything I'd been through, good was exactly what I needed. 10 years after my divorce from Veronica, I sat in my workshop on a Saturday morning, drinking coffee and watching Andrea teach our 7-year-old daughter, Emma, how to change oil in the Mustang. Remember, Andrea was saying, you always check the dipstick first. Make sure you know how much oil you're starting with. Emma nodded seriously, her small hands carefully pulling out the dipstick like she'd seen us do 100 times. Why do we have to change oil, Daddy? She asked me. Because engines need clean oil to run properly, like how we need clean water to stay healthy. But why can't we just add more oil instead of changing it? Good question. Old oil gets dirty. Just adding more doesn't fix the dirt problem. She thought about that, then nodded. That makes sense. I'd never imagined this life 10 years ago. Never thought I'd remarry, have a child, build something so fundamentally different from what I'd had with Veronica. But here I was, teaching my daughter about car maintenance while my wife supervised, in a workshop we'd built together. Emma had been a surprise. Andrea and I hadn't been trying, but when it happened, it felt right. We'd talked seriously about whether we were ready, whether our relationship could handle the stress of parenthood. We'd decided yes, but with clear boundaries and expectations. No hidden resentments, no unspoken fears, just honest conversation about what we both wanted and needed. Can I drive the Mustang when I'm older? Emma asked, carefully wiping the dipstick with a rag. If you learn how to maintain it properly, this isn't just a car, it's a responsibility. You have to respect it. Because Grandpa built it, because Grandpa and I built it together, and because taking care of things that matter is important. Andrea caught my eye and smiled. We'd told Emma about my father, about the restoration project, about why the Mustang was special, but we'd told it as a happy story, not a sad one. About building things with people you love, about preserving memories, about respect and craftsmanship. We hadn't told her about Veronica selling the car. That was a story for when she was older, when she could understand the complexities of adult relationships and betrayal. For now, the Mustang was just the car Daddy and Grandpa had built, and that was enough. I'm going to build a car with you someday, Emma announced. A pink one, pink it is. We'll find you a project car and restore it together. After Emma went inside to wash her hands, Andrea sat beside me on the workshop bench. She's going to be a gearhead, Andrea said. Just like us. Could be worse hobbies. Could be better ones, too. We should probably encourage some non-mechanical interests. She takes after her mother. What can I do? Andrea laughed. Fair point. How are you feeling about tomorrow? Tomorrow was the 10-year anniversary of the day I'd filed for divorce from Veronica. Not that I'd been tracking it consciously. Andrea had mentioned it last week, asking if I wanted to acknowledge it somehow. I'm feeling fine. It's just a date on a calendar. That whole chapter is closed. You sure? Because if you need to talk about it, I don't. Honestly. That part of my life is so far behind me it might as well have happened to someone else. And it was true. The man who'd stood in his empty garage, watching Veronica explain why she'd sold his father's car, felt like a stranger now. Someone I'd been but wasn't anymore. Someone who'd learned hard lessons and grown from them. Do you ever wonder what happened to her? Andrea asked. Veronica? Not really. I hope she's okay, I guess. Hope she learned from what happened, but I don't think about it much. I heard she moved to another state, got remarried. Good for her. Everyone deserves a second chance. Even people who sell their husband's car without asking. Even them. People change. At least, they can change if they want to. That evening, after Emma was asleep, Andrea and I sat on our back porch looking at the stars. The property we'd bought was far enough outside the city that the sky was actually dark, the stars actually visible. 10 years, Andrea said. That's a long time. It is. But it went fast. You happy? Incredibly. Are you? Very. This life we've built. It's exactly what I wanted. Maybe better than what I wanted? Better than restoring old cars and teaching our daughter about dipsticks? That's a low bar. You married me anyway. I married you because you're honest, because you're real, because when life gets hard, you don't run away or lie or sell people's cars. You face it. That's rare. I learned that from Veronica. She taught me what not to do. Then I guess I should thank her for being such a terrible wife that you learned how to be a good husband. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then I said something I'd been thinking about for months. I want to write a letter to Emma, for when she's older, explaining what happened with Veronica. Why the Mustang matters so much. What I learned from that whole experience. Why? Because someday, she's going to face betrayal. Someone's going to hurt her. And I want her to know that you can survive it. That you can protect yourself without becoming bitter. That you can learn from pain without letting it define you. That's beautiful. You should do it. I wrote the letter over the next few weeks. Not all at once. Just bits and pieces when thoughts occurred to me. By the time I finished, it was less a letter and more a guide. Lessons I'd learned the hard way that I hoped Emma could learn more easily. Dear Emma, it began. By the time you read this, you'll be old enough to understand some complicated things about relationships and trust. I want to tell you a story about something that happened to me before you were born. Not to scare you, but to prepare you. When I was married to someone before your mom, that person betrayed me. Not just once, but repeatedly. She lied to me, used me, and eventually sold something precious to me, your grandpa's car, without asking. It hurt worse than anything I'd experienced. But here's what I learned. Betrayal teaches you who you are. Not who you think you are, but who you actually are when everything is stripped away. I learned I was stronger than I thought. I learned I could protect myself without losing my integrity. I learned that revenge isn't about hurting someone back. It's about making sure they can't hurt you anymore. More importantly, I learned that one person's betrayal doesn't mean everyone will betray you. Your mom taught me that. She showed me what real partnership looks like. So if someone hurts you, remember, you can be smart without being cynical. You can protect yourself without closing your heart. You can learn from pain without letting it make you smaller. And always, always trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't ignore that feeling just because you want to believe in someone. Love you forever, Dad. I sealed the letter in an envelope and put it in our safe. Emma would get it when she turned 18, old enough to understand, young enough to learn from it. You're a good father, Andrea said when I told her about the letter. I'm trying to be. That's all anyone can do. It's more than your father got to do. He died before he could teach you everything. He taught me enough. And you're teaching Emma the rest. 15 years after my divorce, I received news I hadn't expected. Veronica had died. Cancer, according to the mutual friend who called to tell me. Quick and aggressive. She'd only been diagnosed 6 months ago. I sat with that information for a long time, trying to figure out how I felt. Sad, certainly. She was only 48. Nobody deserves to die that young. But beyond the sadness for any human dying too soon, I felt nothing personal. She'd been a chapter in my life that closed a long time ago. Her death didn't change anything for me. Are you going to the funeral? Andrea asked. I don't think so. We weren't part of each other's lives anymore. It would feel disingenuous to show up now. You sure? Sometimes closure requires one final goodbye. I said goodbye 15 years ago when I signed the divorce papers. I don't need another one. But I did send flowers. Not elaborate ones, just a simple arrangement with a card that said, I hope you found peace. Marcus. Her mother called a few days later to thank me. Marcus, I'm so sorry for everything my daughter put you through. She told me, near the end, that you were the one who got away, that she ruined the best thing she ever had. That's kind of her to say. It's the truth. She spent her last few months reflecting on her life, on her mistakes, on the people she'd hurt. Your name came up a lot. I hope that brought her some peace. I think it did. She died knowing she'd been forgiven, at least by some people, That's something. After we hung up, I told Andrea about the conversation. Do you think she really changed? Andrea asked. Or was she just facing death and getting sentimental? I don't know. Maybe both. Does it matter? I guess not. She's gone. You've moved on. The story's over. The story's been over for 15 years. This is just the epilogue. That evening, I went to the workshop where the Mustang sat, perfectly maintained, exactly as it had been when my father and I finished it 30 years ago. I ran my hands over the hood, thinking about everything that car had witnessed. My father's pride, my own youth, Veronica's betrayal, Gerald Hayes's kindness. And now, 15 years of peace and stability with Andrea. Thanks, Dad, I said quietly, for teaching me what you did, for building this with me, for giving me something that reminded me what really matters. I'd sold Veronica's jewelry to pay for my new life. But the truth was, the new life I'd built had nothing to do with jewelry or money or revenge. It had to do with learning who I was, what I valued, and what kind of person I wanted to be. Veronica had tried to take my father's car from me. In doing so, she'd taught me the most important lesson I'd ever learned. Some things are worth fighting for. Not with violence or cruelty, but with strategy and integrity and the simple refusal to let anyone diminish what matters. I'd fought for that car. I'd fought for my dignity. I'd fought for my future. And I'd won all three. That was better than any revenge I could have imagined. That was justice. And more importantly, that was peace.